Cool. Hello there, Callum Johns here, and this is a great opportunity. I'm talking to Amelia Haynes from Twin Sons Foundation. So do you want to introduce yourself a bit?
I don't know how many of you are already familiar with Twin Sons, but we're a charity that was founded in America in 2016. We started with a billboard project, which was posted near the headquarters of Lucasfilm. Those of you who follow what Callum does probably know he's a big Star Wars fan. So he may have talked about it just a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah.
But, I think a lot of Star Wars fans know back in 2014 when Lucasfilm announced that they were no longer continuing the former expanded universe stories and we're just going to move forward with different projects that wouldn't be part of that timeline. There was a lot of disappointment, a lot of rage, and just a lot of struggle among the fans to find a way to express their, I guess their frustration with this decision, while also trying to find a way to, try and get that continued, try and get those stories continued. And it was kind of a mess because there was not really, there wasn't really any common goal. It was all sorts of people had different ideas about how to get it to work. So Twin Sons originated because there were a few people who came together and ended up deciding, why don't we put up a billboard outside of Lucasfilm telling them we want more of the legend stories. And that's how Twin Sons started. So we did that, and that came up, I believe, spring of 2016. And so we weren't a nonprofit yet at that point. It was crowdfunded. No funds went to the people behind it. It went entirely to the resources to fund the billboard, and the excess funds went to actually purchasing Star Wars books, which they donated to, I believe it was a local library. So this was in California, near the headquarters of Lucasfilm in 2016. I believe it was April. I know it was springtime for people in the Northern Hemisphere. But yeah, and after that, people kind of were looking to those of us who were involved with the billboard project, okay, that was definitely a great way of going about with communicating with Lucasfilm. That, there's definitely a wide part of the fan base that wants more of the former EU, which now has been rebranded Legends and discontinued. What more can we do? And that led to the idea of, well, what if we created, I guess, more of a drive for these Star Wars books by investing in young readers through donating to children in different communities. And so that led to the creation of Twin Sons. We've donated over 1,000 books since our inception, mostly to children's hospitals, but we've also donated to other community resources like a recreation center in California, libraries, schools. We even have a network where people can donate used books to different locations across America, and these used books will be rehomed in free libraries, schools, or anywhere local where the person who picks up the books can find. They'll basically get them in the hands of readers, and we definitely try to focus on young readers because we believe in, for one thing, promoting literacy. That's been a big part of our cause, and another thing, just creating a new generation of, many of these kids already love Star Wars, but also creating a generation of people who are excited to learn more about it. So yeah, that's kind of how we got going. And so it's been over 3 years since we got started. We passed our 1,000th book actually this past spring when we were in Chicago for Star Wars Celebration. So that was a really exciting milestone. And yeah, it was great. That was my first Star Wars Celebration, but Twin Sons Foundation has been to Celebration twice now. They were also in Orlando in, what year was it? 2017, I believe. It was just so great meeting all sorts of people. There were a bunch of people who already knew about Twin Sons. There were people who were meeting us for the first time, and it was just great, being able to engage in this conversation, whether they already knew what we did, knew everything about every project we'd ever done, or had heard of us and were kind of loosely following us, or were just meeting us for the first time. It it was so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Definitely one of the highlights of being part of Twin Suns.
Yeah, great. And I actually I've pretty much known Twin Suns from since you did the billboard. That really got attention within the EU community when we were looking for ways to try and impact Lucasfilm, to try and know that there's still a market for more EU books and more of that timeline that we all want, which is great.
Yeah. And I think one of the things we've strived to communicate is that we're not trying to wipe away what Lucasfilm is doing with their new projects. Like we don't want them to like retcon, their new movies, their new shows, and all the other projects they've come out with since Disney purchased Lucasfilm. We're not trying to erase that. Our goal as Twin Suns has always been to have a coexisting like alternate universe. I mean, because that's effectively what the EU currently is. They're just not actively continuing the stories. Like if you read them, you can view them as an alternate universe. You can enjoy them while also enjoying like all the new material, and many fans do. It's just they're not continuing, and there's really no reason at this point why they couldn't be. And I think there was some, at least speculation or suggestion early on, that they weren't continuing Legends right off the bat because they didn't want to create confusion, like right as their movies were coming out, like they had just started Rebels, Force Awakens was about to come out. But I think now they've established their timeline, their new timeline, well enough that people are going to be able to, if they pick up a book and read it, you can tell, okay, this is Star Wars, but it's not the same timeline as like, the Force Awakens.
Even if you do a quick Google into it, that.
Right. It's like if somebody casually went into like the DC universe and watched like watched Aquaman, Shazam, whatnot, and then went and watched all the Arrowverse shows with like Arrow, The Flash, and whatnot. They could tell, okay, these are both DC, but they're separate universes. I think fans have enough, generally, they can tell, okay, this is, it's the same thing but separate universes, and I think it would be very similar if they were to go forward with Legends.
Yeah, definitely, and we've seen a little bit of that as well with the classic Marvel Star Wars issue 108 coming out.
Yes. So yeah, awesome. They have done small continuations in some capacity. Like it was a year or two ago that on like the Star Wars the Old Republic website, they released a short story written by forget, was it Drew Karpyshyn or was it Paul Kemp? It was one of the two who had written.
I should remember.
But I wrote a short story, so that was kind of like a one-off story that had been released, which would be within the Legends timeline. And then there was the Marvel issue 108. So it's like they've done these like one-off things. So it's definitely possible at this point.
Yeah, and it's like so the Old Republic. The Old Republic MMO still is producing some expansion content to add to the story of it. So, and that's definitely not part of the new canon, that's part of the EU as well. Yeah. That's cool. So also, since you said you focus on young readers, so is it usually just the junior novels that you usually get to distribute?
So we mainly donate the young adult novels, not so much the junior novels. And part of that is limited publication of some of the junior novels, especially like with Classic EU. So while we do donate new canon stuff, our main goal is EU focused. So mainly when we've donated new canon books, it's because somebody has given them to us. So we're not opposed to donating them at all. It's just our focus has been donating Classic EU. So with the young adult novels, it's kind of difficult because there's some issues with some of them only have limited publications, or there's only like older copies available, which we're not able to donate used copies to hospitals because of hygiene and whatnot. We would probably be able to donate that sort of thing to libraries and schools if they were in good condition, community centers. But our focus is giving brand new books when we're doing donation drives.
That's tricky because they've reprinted some of the things, but they haven't reprinted everything. Right.
So we do have, there is a limited amount of like junior novels that were targeted more towards preteens, adolescents, teenagers that we are able to obtain. But for the most part, it's the young adult novels. You know, your Heir to the Empire, Vector Prime,
And
whatnot. And we do all across the timeline, really. But yeah, generally, readers will be receiving the young adult novels.
Yeah, cool. So you mentioned about donating some new canon books. Was there a point in time where you had to have a real good sit down and talk through the thought process of whether you should be donating those when you base a lot on EU books?
I don't think so. Like, I can't really remember it being a specific discussion. I think there was always this understanding that what we were promoting was coexisting parallel universes, and so because we're not anti-new canon.
Yeah.
I mean, we never had a problem. Like, so when we were at Star Wars Celebration, we were people were giving us books while we were there, and
that's cool.
Yeah, so there were a couple book vendors there, and for the most part, what they were selling was new canon. So we received quite a few new canon books while we were at Star Wars Celebration in Chicago this past year. So yeah, I don't think that ever was like a really if we ever discussed it, it wasn't like a major thing. It was kind of like, okay, let's do this. You know, it gets books in the hands of readers, and all about that.
And I guess the mission for Twin Suns is more about spreading the literacy and books.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we continue to do. We've if Lucasfilm hears us out and decides to continue the Star Wars Legends timeline, I think we'd still be doing what we're doing now and taking these books to hospitals and to libraries, to schools, to community centers, and anywhere else that will really just get them in the hands of readers. I think
because they're great stories.
Really we don't really have an end goal. Like, we definitely have the goal of getting the EU continued, but that's not like an end goal. It's we're a nonprofit, and I think the literacy mission will continue long.
That's something that can always be ongoing.
Yeah. I think as long as these books end up in the hands of young readers for generations to come, I think that's just going to keep the EU alive, and all of Star Wars, really. I think that's partly why Star Wars has lasted as long as it has. It's because most people today, like, from even like the youngest little toddlers, it's something they've been passed down from their parents and their parents and their parents for several generations now. I mean, my parents were children when they saw Star Wars, and then like my siblings and I were raised on that, and I have a sister who has kids, and they're going to be raised on Star Wars, and it's just this multi-generational thing. And I think it's the same with just like the vastness of the Star Wars universe, from the games, the comics, the books, all of it. And I think as long as you can keep passing it down, it's going to live forever.
Yeah, and they're great stories that are really well written as well, that we want to help other people experience as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you talked you distribute a lot in America. So is that the only place you've been distributing books at the moment?
Yes. Currently, we have only been able to do donation drives in America. We have been able to do them in multiple states. Like after Celebration Orlando, they donated books to, I believe it was a hospital, a children's hospital in Orlando. So that was 2017. But we've done donations in California, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Where else? We've got another one coming up, which will also be in California, and then we've also got one coming up in Texas. So those are both coming up next month in October. So yeah, we're actually funding for two donation drives right now. But we're very excited. We've had lots of success. We get really good feedback whenever wherever we're donating. It's like it's always been warm welcomes. Typically when we offer to do a donation drive, they haven't really heard of us as like a foundation yet. I mean, when we mentioned that, like, we'll try and get like the 501st Legion to come with us, that's something we've done a lot, is like try and get people in costume from the 501st Legion to be there during our donations, which is great because they already do a lot of these activities like at hospitals and libraries, schools. They'll show up in costume for various activities. When we mention the 501st Legion, a lot of the times they'll be like, oh, yeah, we love those guys.
Even if we just get them over here, we'll do that.
Yeah, we definitely get very positive feedback, both when we offer to do donation drives and during and after. It's just been so positive there.
That's
We've
awesome.
definitely, it's good to know that what we're doing is appreciated by the people we're, striving to benefit.
Yeah, and there's like the internet, you see a lot of the negative side of the fandom, but a lot of the time I've found when talking to people in real life, there's none of that. So it's great to see that.
That's definitely something we noticed like at Celebration. I think both this year and the year I wasn't there in 2017, but Brian and Dylan and a few others were. That's definitely something we've noticed. Like all the negativity on the internet, it disappears when you're face to face. It's like suddenly they're real people and not just names on a screen. They're not just pixels anymore, and you treat them like human beings. So that's definitely something we realized. But even with our online presence, it's been rather positive, and I think very rarely do we encounter real trolls who are going to try and target what we're doing and try and mess with us. For the most part, they kind of leave us alone. And I wish they kind of would just not bother anybody who's doing anything about Star Wars. But for the most part, we haven't had too much trouble with Twin Suns. We did have somebody review our Facebook page a while ago. They gave us a 1-star and they said, we try to hide it, but apparently Twin Suns is just a bunch of trolls. So I don't know. we must be very effective at hiding our trollishness since we've donated books.
I'm waiting for the part where you're like, oh, we're doing this interview, and then I'm just going to leave. Troll.
Pull off my face and reveal that underneath it's like a troll, like a green goblinish cartoonish troll. I'll just like, yes, this face is entirely fake. Live stream. All Twin Suns will do a live stream and we'll pull off our face masks and reveal that we are indeed trolls.
The lizard men are taking over.
Yes, lizard people. I don't know. I guess if Trandoshans ever came to Earth, we'd have real lizard people.
Yeah, and Kappa would be
we don't already have lizard people. I should probably not go off on conspiracy theories when representing Twin Suns.
That's all in good fun anyway.
Oh yes, conspiracy theories are the best. Yes. But yeah, I have yet to see a Trandoshan cosplay. I'd love to see that. If anybody has seen a Trandoshan cosplay or done a Trandoshan cosplay and has photographic evidence, please link it or send it to Twin Suns page because I would love to see that. That would be like lizard people, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yes, I feel like that would be have the potential to spiral quite easily, but it would be very amusing.
It would be a great cosplay.
Yes, I've definitely seen plenty of amazing Star Wars cosplays that I don't know, they look like they must take at least 5 hours to do just to put on between all the makeup work and whatnot. I saw an image once of what's the Sith Lord in the Star Wars The Old Republic cinematic trailers. What's his name? Maybe. He's the one in what's the one where they sack the Jedi Temple?
The Sith one.
Yeah, that one.
Why am I blanking on his name?
Remember his name? We are #fake Star Wars fans because we don't have a Sith Lord. But yeah, that guy, the guy who leads the Sith Lord who sacks the Jedi Temple. I've seen an image of somebody who cosplayed him, and he's got this white, pasty, scaly skin, and somebody, I don't know if it was entirely makeup or if they made themselves a mask or whatnot, but they also had the breathing thing he has over his mouth and the armor and everything. Yes.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love those cosplays.
Yes, but I've seen Twi'leks are definitely a popular one. So I see a lot of that. There's actually a fan group that does the Old Republic cosplays. So they've got a kind of a combination of KOTOR as well as SWTOR cosplayers. But I met this one woman at Celebration who cosplayed her own smuggler character from she plays in SWTOR. We saw a lot of that. It was great. People were just cosplaying their original characters and amazing costume work. But she cosplayed a Miralyn, which I don't see too often. I mean, there's a few like Barris, Alfie characters, and
Luminar on Dually.
Yeah, you see a bit of that, but not as many as like other alien species. So it was cool.
I guess alien species.
It's not overly complex. You just kind of need like this olive green paint and then like the black paint for whatever. So I mean, it probably takes a while, but it's not as complex as like Togrutas and Twi'leks and a few others that would involve more prop work.
Yeah, and probably the cosplayers that are really into the detail stuff want to take up the challenge as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the best parts about seeing it. It's like, oh my gosh, how long did it take you to make that? And oh my gosh, I love it. It's just really exciting getting to do Twin Suns because it's just this constant stream of meeting fans, both online and in person when we do projects. So I haven't done a project that involved the 501st Legion yet. My only donation drive that I've been a part of was the one in Chicago right after Celebration, where we donated books we received to the local children's hospital. So we just dropped them off with a person from the hospital, and they were actually planning to give the books to children in the hospital on May 4th. So because we were just donating them off with a representative and not handing them directly to children, which is what we normally do at those kind of events, we didn't have the 501st present with us. Yeah. However, I'll be handling the donation drive to Scottish Rite Hospital in Dallas in October, this coming month. And so hopefully I'll have some people from the 501st with me. And yeah, it just really gets the kids hyped when they see characters they know.
Even adults.
Really cool. Anyone who's familiar with the 501st Legion knows, and like the Rebel Legion and whatnot, and the similar costuming groups, familiar with, how they very regularly do, hospitals. They do like 5Ks for different charities, and they're always in costume, and there's just very, very positive feedback for what they do, because it just really gets kids excited, and that's one of the most amazing things. Just bringing happiness into people's lives.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I probably should ask, what exactly is your role in Twin Suns?
So it's kind of vaguely defined. So in the United States, to run a nonprofit, we are required to have a minimum of 3 board members. And so initially when it was founded, it was Brian and Dylan, and then one other guy, Bill, who still helps us out. And so they were the 3 board members initially. So Brian and Dylan are still board members, and Brian's our president, Dylan's our vice president, and they're continuing their roles. And then Bill eventually stepped down for just his own reasons, but is still a big sponsor of Twin Suns Foundation and was there with us at Celebration in Chicago and is in our live stream quite a bit. So if y'all have a chance to look up Twin Suns Foundation on YouTube, we did our live stream of Celebration Chicago, and yeah, it was pretty fun. You got to see all the people in costume who I was just talking about, overhear some of the conversations. John Jackson Miller stopped by and said hi on our live stream a couple times. So that was cool. Hey, maybe next time we'll get Timothy's on next year. So
yeah, who knows?
We're still waiting to see if Lucasfilm will have us back at Anaheim next year. But yeah, we're definitely very hopeful. But yes, as I was saying, in America, we're required to have 3 board members at least to run a nonprofit. So when Bill stepped down, I took the helm. I was already involved with Twin Suns, more or less. I don't know what I was doing. It's kind of whenever they were going to post something online, I'd kind of edit it to make sure the grammar and spelling was accurate. And I've done a lot of that with the website too. I probably should double check the website and make sure everything's running efficiently. But yeah, so I do a little bit of everything. We're all kind of like a community of, especially like the main 3 board members, but we also have a community of others like who help moderate our social media, as well as like our Discord chat, like donors who have donated to past donation drives have been invited into a Discord chat we've got. And so we have a lot of people in there who will also like give suggestions for what to do with fundraisers going forward, where to have donation drives, what books we're donating. So yeah, it's kind of like we all have a creative circle of, so it's very like unified. We all kind of throw suggestions at each other, and a lot of it is us messing around and being silly a lot of the time, which is honestly one of the best parts about being part of this. Yeah, because it's so much fun. It's and we all have day jobs. Like none of us get paid doing Twin Suns. It's not what we do full time. It's something we do on the side. So it's nice to do something where you get to have fun and you get to be with friends, and while also working to push our goals forward.
Yeah, and I'm sure you have.
Yeah, so I've kind of been involved with Twin Suns in some capacity pretty much since the billboard. So yeah, when I took over as a board member, I just continued kind of doing what I was doing, which was making all sorts of crazy suggestions, and sometimes they actually work. I suggested we join Amazon Smile, which I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I'm not really familiar with it, but I've heard of it.
Okay, so to any viewers who also may not be familiar with it, what it is Amazon has this thing where different nonprofits can sign up to receive a portion of people's eligible purchases. So you have to do it from like smile.amazon.com. You can't do it from regular Amazon. But when you sign up, you can choose a nonprofit that's already registered. And so Twin Suns, we registered, and how it is any eligible purchase receives 0.5%. So not 5%, but 0.5% of your purchase, which still is good because we've got a decent amount of people who follow it, and so kind of helps with our operating costs, maintaining the website. But yeah, that was one of my more productive suggestions. I'm full of crazy suggestions that may or may not involve putting billboards on the moon, trying to get NASA to rocket, and I have so many crazy suggestions. Yeah, we've had quite a few crazy suggestions over the years, mostly from me. That's been one of my more popular ones, partly because our moderators will not let it die. Yeah, we have a bunch of people who are not board members, but they definitely help moderate our social media, like Facebook, Instagram, whatnot. Yeah, and Twitter. I don't know who actually. Like, yeah, Brian, Dylan, and I, we actually don't really manage a lot of the social media as far as your day-to-day posting goes, and I don't think it's necessarily updated daily, but just making sure there's some regular follow through, letting you know what we're doing. We'll do like the major announcements and whatnot, and we'll post pictures from events that if we're present. But yeah, we have a whole team of moderators, and they're wonderful, and they're great at keeping that up to date. And they're a lot of fun. It's a whole team. It's a whole team of people, and it's fun-loving geeks who love Star Wars.
Always, yeah.
Yeah.
And as you said, you have day jobs, so you wouldn't have time to look after everything anyway.
Yeah, and that's part of why it's great that we have like this whole community, because we're all on different schedules. Like, for the most part, the people who run our social media are based out of the United States, but we do have like some presence in like Australia and Spain even, and I believe one of our moderators is Italian, So I think we have one from Spain and one from Italy, if I remember correct. If not, they can shame me later, and they probably will shame me with emojis and gifs.
Shout out to the fellow Aussie.
That would be Aussie EV. He runs our website actually, and has he kind of whenever we've done live streams, aside from our celebration live streams, but like our podcasts we've done on our YouTube channel in the past, he's managed all the technology, all the technological stuff, and the main people, like the main board members. We don't know technology. We can post on Facebook.
You're those ones with the book and going, here's the book.
We can do very basic website stuff, but for the most part, we would be lost without our Aussie EV. So he does a whole bunch of basically making sure our website doesn't crash on us, which is definitely important.
Yeah, the original board's just like, here's books. We don't use computers.
It's like we do, and that's like about it. We can do the very basic. I mean, I don't know. I think it varies. It varies person to person. Like Dylan's really good with memes. Like he's even better than I am.
Memes for days. Yeah.
Yes. So we'll have like different skills where we can do different things. But our web manager, Aussie EV, he's the main genius as far as technology is concerned, and we'd be falling flat on our stomachs if we didn't have that backup, which is great.
Yeah, that's great. So you've got that
all over the world helping. Yeah, which is
people with different skills to be able to do those things. It's good,
right? And it's great because people are able to help in their own way, and I know with like the community we're in, it can be hard to contribute to this kind of nonprofit financially. Especially if you're out of the United States, but even in the United States, just because of the whole, like, where people are financially in their lives and whatnot. But there's so many other ways you can help out. And we definitely get a lot of that support through our social media moderators and our web administrator. We get so much support, and there's a whole bunch of other Star Wars fans running like different social media pages who are just always sharing what we're doing, sharing our campaigns, and even if they're not able to financially support, just really getting the word out definitely really spreads what we're doing and helps spread our impact, which is very important and appreciated always. Yeah, it's definitely a big part of where our support comes from, is just the word of mouth.
Yeah, that's great. And like this, I'm talking to you.
Yes, Thank you.
Great. So thinking of your crazy ideas, I just wondered if you'd ever considered doing audiobooks in some way.
Okay, you cut out on my end.
Oh,
so
sorry.
What you said? No worries.
I just wondered if you have ever considered doing audiobooks in some way, shape, or form.
Oof. So I feel like that would be more difficult because you don't always have the physical copies of audiobooks available. You've got like a lot of like digital. So I don't even know that every book that's been released as an audiobook is even available as a physical copy. You've got like Audible and similar, I guess similar. I can't name the other programs like that. There's also the issue of a lot of people don't really have CD players anymore. Especially in America. I don't know how it is elsewhere, but like here in America, many people don't have CD players. Like they may have them in their cars, but most people they hook up their phones and iPods and rely on that to listen to like their podcasts and books and whatnot. So you don't. There's not really. It would be difficult. I mean, I definitely think it would be a good thing because you've got a lot of fans who may struggle to read, whether it's because of like maybe personal preference or like learning difficulties like ADHD, dyslexia, or even people with limited sight or blindness who would be able to benefit from that. But there would be difficulty just because there's only so many physical copies of the audiobooks, and also because like CD players aren't as widespread anymore.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, but I feel like it would be a good it would be a good possibility. I just don't know how easy it would be to actually implement it.
Yeah, it'd probably have to be digital somehow.
Yeah, that would be even more difficult. I'm sure. I'm sure. Maybe one of these days we might be able to figure out, especially if we get demands, like as we grow as an organization, we, you know, definitely
Try
love
and
to.
workshop.
Yeah, we definitely love to hear from like the recipients of our donations, and like if there ever were, I think like if we ever had somebody who could possibly be a recipient, like request that, I'm sure we'd find a way. So,
Cool.
but yeah, we that's definitely a good idea in theory. So I don't know how we'd implement that in the future, but who knows? Build it and they will come. So we'll find a way if it ever if it ever becomes a request, we'll whether and that could be a request from like our sponsors as well, like people who follow Twin Suns if they think, oh, this would benefit the community. I think we could find a way to make that happen.
Yeah, nice. Out of interest as well, in Australia here, it's 3 directors for a charitable organisation as well.
Okay, yeah.
Not too dissimilar there.
That's cool. Yeah, I wonder if we have people watching this from other countries, feel free to comment if you know what it is like for charities in your country. I'd love to see how there's some similarity there.
It'd be cool. Yeah. I think the last thing I want to talk about is any current major projects that you're working on.
So we do, yes, I did reference this a couple times. We do have a current donation drive going, our current fundraiser going for, it's actually for 2 donation drives. So one of them is going to be going to a recreation community center in California, and that's going to be led by Dylan. So he actually went to this recreation center last year. I believe it was in December, and donated a bunch of Star Wars books and had really good feedback from this recreation center. And so they invited Twin Suns to come back. And so we're going back. We're bringing plenty of Star Wars books. We're bringing bookmarks and other goodies for the children who will be the recipients. So that will be one of them. And that'll be either right before Halloween or on Halloween. But they did request it was for their Halloween event. So that's pretty exciting. Nice. And then I'll be donating another one of our book drives will be to a children's hospital in Dallas. So that's exciting for me because the only donation drive I've done so far was Chicago. It's definitely something we're very hopeful for. And let me actually pull up our donation page real quick and see where we're at right now. So at the moment, as far as our website has updated it, at least, we're at $640 out of our $1,350 goal. So yeah, we're doing pretty well. That's about halfway. And let me see. We actually are planning to use additional proceeds to fund a future billboard because, as I mentioned earlier, part of our goal has been to really promote that message to Lucasfilm that there's definitely there's still a demand for the Star Wars Legends books. And so that's something we want to, just implement in a way that we can come up with something that communicates in a very positive way. And that's always been part of what we do is positive.
Because no one wants that negativity.
Sorry, I'm tripping over my words. In a way that's like non-combative and whatnot. And I think we all kind of remember 2014 right after the announcement. Like there was a decent amount of praise on the internet. So
there's a lot of people that use harsh language on the internet.
Yeah, and they're probably always
will be. It's not a way to get things to come about.
Right. We're always
at least for me, especially, if someone says something harshly to me, I'm even less likely to go for it.
Exactly, and it's just unproductive and just it's unnecessary. Like even if it were productive, like okay, would you rather do something because somebody angrily told you to do it, or would you rather do it because they nicely asked you, hey, I would like this to happen, can you make it happen? I think anyone would say they'd want the latter. And the people behind Lucasfilm are people. The people making these decisions are people. It's not just some mysterious mystic overlords, pressing buttons and making decisions on a whim. It's actual human beings, and they deserve respect just the same as anyone else.
Yeah.
And so that's something we're always mindful of is, promoting our message in the most respectful way possible. But yeah, the current fundraiser, additional funds will be going towards a future billboard. So we have our timeline is we're hoping to have that up in either January or February of 2020. So that's not too far around the corner. So we're hoping to kind of start fundraising for that now. So if we receive enough funds and any surplus funds, it will go to the fundraising of a future billboard. So that's exciting because that's kind of how we started. So it will be a bit of going back to our roots.
Awesome. And I'm thinking of the billboard a bit. Do you think you'd position that similarly to how you did before, or do you think it might be more effective somewhere else?
So the first billboard, it was placed very close to Lucasfilm, and we know many Lucasfilm employees saw it like driving into work because they posted about it on Twitter. They were making comments, not necessarily positive or negative, but it was more like, "Oh, cool," more or less to that extent. But they definitely did acknowledge it, which is good. We know that we were at least heard. So it would be something that would be near Lucasfilm. We're still working on nailing down the wording. So we don't want it to be identical to our previous billboard, partly because it's been almost 4 years now. And as our movement has improved, we've made progress over the years in, including the one-off issues like the issue 108, the short story on the Old Republic, as well as the expansions for Star Wars: The Old Republic and games being re-released. So it's like there has been like a progress on a, I guess, like a small scale. And I don't know, I don't want to say small scale because it makes it sound like it's insignificant, which it's not. Because, right, yes, we've definitely made progress. So we want something that, kind of acknowledges like, so it will be worded differently from the initial the initial billboard, which asked for more legends, but it will still be like the same mindset of, we're still basically we're saying, we're still here, and we still love Star Wars. We're still doing what we're doing to promote this love of Star Wars, and we'd love to see it continue. And but yeah, the goal is to put it near the headquarters of Lucasfilm and hope that they'll see our message and, maybe do something a little more than the occasional one-off comic or online story.
I think from the previous billboard as well, there may have been some misunderstandings that had to be cleared up later as well.
Right,
so
and that's another thing. We've looked back on that, and it's like, well, there definitely was some positive that proceeded from it. There were definitely ways it could have been worded better, and that's another thing we want to improve on is, making sure that it's just communicated in the most effective way, and that's always been a major part. It's not just communicating that we want more legends, but communicating it effectively.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people probably screaming that they want legends and not necessarily doing it in effective or
because I know one ways they've gone, oh, let's put these EU characters in the new canon.
Yeah, and we're not opposed to that. We just want the stories that have been discontinued to continue. I mean, like Sword of the Jedi, there's not really a way they could fully implement like characters like Jaina and Jason into the EU to the new canon with the direction they've gone. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, but with them having different characters and characters who wouldn't be able to fit into their universe, it would just be nice to. And that's what we want, is to see these stories continued without it trampling the universe they've created and expanded on over the past. Oh gosh, when did Lucasfilm buy out, or Disney bought out Lucasfilm in 2012? It was October of 2012. So basically, nearly 7 years now. They've been expanding on their own stories for 7 years, and that's not something we want to.
Until 2014, they had some EU stuff. But
early 2014, before that announcement that they were discontinuing the old stories, there were a few publications. I believe, like Darth Plagueis was one of the last books we got. Shadow Games. There are a few others that were published early 2014.
The Last Jedi.
2014?
The 2013 one. It was written by Michael Reeves and Maya Catherine Bonhoff.
Yeah. Yes. I know it was one of the last.
Yeah. Funny how they reuse names.
Yeah. They also they're the same ones who co-wrote Shadow Games, which is a really good book.
I really enjoy Michael Reeves' books.
Yeah. I loved the entire Coruscant Nights trilogy. When I first got into the Star Wars EU, I mostly read the post-Return of the Jedi stuff. So it wasn't like necessarily avoiding other stuff. It's just what I ended up on. So like when I discovered Coruscant Nights trilogy, it's like, okay, cool, I'll try this out. And then I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. Yeah, it's really good. It's probably been it's been a number of years since I've read that trilogy, and I could still probably recall a lot of the details with relative vividness. When I enjoy a story, I remember quite a bit.
It's good.
But yeah, it was an amazing trilogy.
So that begs the question then, how did you get into the EU?
So even though my parents raised me watching Star Wars as a child, I didn't really like Star Wars. So I was almost 15 when I finally sat down on my own and just watched all the movies, which, this would have been years ago. So it was just the six that George Lucas had made in the 70s, 80s, and then 90s and early 2000s. So the originals and the prequels. So I just watched them through chronologically and enjoyed it. And pretty much right away, I had a good friend who was really into Star Wars, diehard EU fan. Shout out to my friend Steven because we're still friends. We've known each other for 10 years. He got me into Star Wars. Basically, he was talking about it all the time, which was what prompted me to watch the movies. But yeah, right off the bat, he was like, oh, you should read this book and this book and this book, and it's so good, and here's what happens afterwards, and Han and Leia get married and have kids, and then all this stuff happens. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to read all of it. And I just kind of dove in right in, within a couple of weeks of watching all the movies. And I have a wonderful library near where I live. And so they had so many Star Wars books. They had just about everything. And so, I was just pulling everything off the shelves I could find that my library had and going through all of it. And it was completely out of order at first. And it wasn't until I don't know how long it was before I started, So I ended up reading a lot of New Jedi Order out of order because because I was just grabbing books at random and not knowing anything about them other than cool, Star Wars. So it was a while.
You enjoyed it.
Yes, but it was good. It was good. It was kind of a jump in head first. But so do
you remember which your first book was?
I believe it was, I know it was Luceno. It was the one he wrote, the prequel book, the one right before Phantom Menace, Cloak of Deception.
Cloak of Deception.
Yeah, so this was years ago before Plagueis was ever even written or published. It was Cloak of Deception, which was amazing. It's been years since I read it. And so this was actually 2010, early spring of 2010. Actually, that would be your fall or winter. So this, since you're in Australia, you're in a different hemisphere as me. But it was February or March of 2010, so almost 10 years ago now. So I just remember loving it, right off the bat.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I like how it builds up the situation in the Phantom Menace. That one. It's great.
Yeah, it's I can't really recall the plot of the book. I know it involved a lot of Chancellor Valorum, but I have the book. I have the book somewhere. I need to reread it because it's been so long.
They're set up for the Phantom Menace, which is great.
Yeah.
Taxation of the trade routes.
I love a lot of the complementary prequel books, the books that went along with the release of the movies. I love Labyrinth of Evil, and then Dark Lord, Rise of Darth Vader, which I believe was also James Luceno. Those were just amazing, complimentary. One of the things I loved about Labyrinth of Evil was it really set up this this friendship that Bail Organa has with Padme Amidala, and it's like he doesn't know that she's pregnant, but it leads into him becoming like the father of her daughter, like adopting Leia, and it just kind of comes full circle later in Dark Lord and Rise of Darth Vader. It's like he looks back on some of the stuff he said to Padme back then, like not knowing she was pregnant, not knowing she was about to have a baby that he would end up adopting, but just kind of making these promises to her that he'd always support her, both like not just as co-politicians in the Republic, but also as a person. And that's another book I have. Both those I haven't read in nearly 10 years, but I still remember those, like those little things, like the relationships they build and how they're very complementary to movies. So I loved that. I love James Luceno is definitely one of my top EU authors.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love him as well, and I love how it weaves together with the movies, but also brings a unique perspective when you go and watch the movies again as well.
Yeah. So, what was your first Star Wars EU book?
Oh well,
if you
I got
remember.
the junior novels of the movies when I was in primary school, and I thought they'd be the full-on ones, the thick ones. So technically they're the first, but after that I was the Jedi Academy trilogy.
Oh, nice.
Which is really cool because I love just reading how Luke rebuilt the Jedi Order and everything that went on there.
So that's Kevin J. Anderson's trilogy. Yeah, that's a good one. I remember when I read that trilogy. I borrowed them from the library, and I don't remember if it was because I wanted to check out something else and just had to finish up the last of the trilogy first, or if the books were almost due and I had was on a deadline. But I remember staying up all night reading the last book of the trilogy to finish it, and I finished it and only got 45 minutes of sleep before I had to wake up. That's like the shortest I've ever slept willfully. I have had bouts of insomnia that were worse, but that's the shortest I ever slept willfully. And I would have been about 14 or 15 at the time. So I got no sleep finishing the last of the Jedi Academy.
Hooks you in, isn't it?
Yes, that's definitely the I got about 45 minutes of sleep and then had to wake up. It's definitely a crazier moment in my life, but then again, that explains literally 90% of the stuff I suggest for Twin Suns.
That's all good.
We don't take ourselves too seriously, which is one of the best aspects about it.
Yeah, that's great. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
I feel like we've covered it all. So yeah, if like I said, if you're not able to, financially support our fundraisers, sharing always really helps get the word out, and that's really a big part of our outreach, is just spreading the word and getting that word of mouth support. So thank you for having me. Thanks for this opportunity to help spread the Twin Suns word, and hopefully we're looking forward to 2 successful book drives. So we're definitely very close to getting all the books we want to donate, and from there we'll hopefully be funding for our next billboard.
Awesome, and thank you for taking time out of your day to come and talk to me here.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. And to everyone watching, thank you for listening for this go almost an hour. So thanks for just having a listen to everything
Thanks
here.
for putting up with us.
Yeah, putting up with us and everything. And you'll see me around doing videos, and I'm open, and the appropriate links will be in the description. So, uru.
All right, that was awesome.